this video I'm going to show you some just how to center a div in the center of the page and extend it down the length of the page. Quite a simple styling effect, but used on many websites. What you can see on the left hand side is a folder called website, which I've created in my documents. Since this is an HTML document, I don't need any special software. I don't need to be running this off of XAMPP or anything else. If that doesn't make any sense to you, don't panic. Just create a folder in documents called website, and that's all you need. The only other thing I'm going to create in here is another folder called CSS, which is going to hold my cascading style sheet. On the right hand side I've got Notepad++ running, and I've got a new document, and the first thing I'm going to do is save this, and I'm going to save this in my documents area. Go into the website folder I've now created, and I'm going to call this one index.html and just change the bottom part to read hypertext markup language. Save that, and we can see that appears on the left hand side. So that's my index. I called it index because that's going to be my first page, and as you're already aware, your first web page should be called index, so that the browser knows what to look for. I'm going to create another blank page, so create a new page. I'm going to automatically save this one as well, and I'm going to save this one to the CSS area, and I'm going to call this one style.css, and I'm going to save it as a cascading style sheet. And now that's happened, that's now inside there, ready to roll. Okay, the next stage is to simply build up the page with normal HTML. The first thing I'm going to define is the Doctype. This is essential. This tells the browsers what language you're using. In this case, I'm using HTML5. If you don't do this, certainly Internet Explorer will fail to run lots and lots of commands. I'm going to have the HTML element, so I'm going to end the HTML element here, and that's there. I'm then going to introduce the head, and then end the head section, introduce the body section, and end the body section as well. So I'm preparing the document ready for use. I'm only going to put 3 lines into the head section. The first one's going to be the title section, and this is simply going to be center div, and that's all this is all about, and end the title. So that defines the title of the page, puts it in the top and bottom. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a meta tag for the content type. You really do need to make sure that this is the one meta tag that you really do need to include in here, simply because without it the system doesn't know which language type to use, and therefore that can cause all kind of problems for your page. So just be aware that that's something you need to enter. And having to remember exactly what this constitutes, because meta tags are closed. I need to close that off that way there. Okay, and the last part I need to do is create the link to my CSS. So tell it which type of link this is, where the document is. Then I need to tell it its release type is Stylesheet, that the type of document that it's going to be reading in is going to be text of the type CSS, and that the media for this is going to be targeted towards the screen. Again, close that off so that's got there. Okay, so let's just have a look at that page there, have a look at it in its full, and you can see all I've done is set this out, nothing else in there, and there's only one more line I need to add to this page to do what we wish to do, but those 3 lines really should be in all of your websites minimum. The only other line I'm going to add is I'm going to add a div. I'm going to give this an ID. I'm going to tell it to use an ID called container, which at the current moment in time does not exist, and I'm simply going to end the div there. I don't need to do any more at this point. That's all I need this page to do. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to show you exactly what this looks like. At the moment I've got this defaulted to Firefox, so if I open this up in Firefox, you can see that's what my page looks like. Wow, so impressive. And if I go to the next page, what I'm going to do is I'm also going to open this up in Internet Explorer, and just as impressive. Really, when you have both browsers, that really does help in all aspects. It makes sure your system works effectively. Okay, so that's all I need for the index. Now we're going to do the work in the style sheet. The style sheet, the first thing I need to do is set up the char set, the character set for this particular document, which is the same as the other one, UTF-8. Oops. I'm then going to use a comment in here just to let myself know that this is my CSS documentation, and I would normally use this to carry author descriptions and things like that, but that's all I need. Now the first thing I'm going to do is set up my container. So here's the declaration. That hash tells it it's an ID, and then the label for that ID is container. Two curly brackets, leave a gap in the middle, and what I know I want to do is I'm going to apply a width to this, or width if I wish to type it that way. I'm going to make the width of this 1000 pixels. That's going to set inside my screen quite nicely. I'm going to set a height of this as 100%. In fact, what I'm going to do first of all is I'm just going to set this to 600 pixels. I'm then going to set the border, and I'm going to set a border left because I want the left and right borders to be apparent, but I want the actual page to run from top to bottom. So solid, and I'm going to set the border color to black. I'm going to do the same thing for border right, and it's going to be exactly the same. I could have copy and pasted the line above, wouldn't have made any difference. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the background color white. Okay, save that. That's what it does to the page. F5, and that's given me my border. You can see that at the top there's a gap, and you can see at the bottom there's a large gap. That's because I've defined the height as 600 pixels, but equally there is a margin set up on this page. Doing the same thing on here, F5 to reload, and again exactly the same result. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want to be able to see this box more clearly, so I'm going to change the background color of the document. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell the body, the body of this document, and I'm simply going to set the background color of this to a light grey. I have staggered it this way. Normally, in fact, if I do this as a single line, I would normally do it this way, which helps save space and everything else. I'll do that at the moment, and we can alter it in a second. Was that done? Well, that's done that, and I can more clearly see this margin. This is a natural piece of margin on the side, margin at the top, and everything else around the outside. Same thing exists here. I've got those. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get this to fill itself up against the top of the screen. So that's quite simple. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to recognize that it is a margin, and I'm going to set the margins and padding, because it could be padding, to 0. Let's have a look at how that works. If I go to Internet Explorer, that pushes it right against the top. If I go to Firefox, that pushes it right against the top. So now I've got a document that has forced this completely to the top. Put a semicolon there and there. So the margin 0, padding 0 has forced that to the top of the document without any problems at all. My next part is I want to set this to 100%. I want the height to run from top to bottom. So I'm going to put it to 100%, and then I'm going to view this, and my div has disappeared. And that's because though I can set the width to 100%, browsers naturally know what their width is. There is no defined height to this document at all. No browser knows by default what its height is. Therefore, what I have to do is I have to set that up. And the simplest way of doing that is by telling it that everything in this document has a height of 100%. Bring that back up. There. If I do that, then that actually forces that now to recognize that the height of this, the viewable height, is 100% of the height in total. That allows my div to follow through. Therefore, if I do this, you can see that works each time. Because I've removed the padding and the margins, it's gone snugly against the side and against the top. So the only thing I've now got to do is get this to center on the page. It now runs top to bottom. By the way, if you wanted a margin at the top, all you do is don't remove the margin. Simply do not have these lines. Let's just remove padding. Let's see what the impact of removing padding is. And on there, absolutely nothing. And on there, again nothing. So in a way we can cut ourselves just simply down to margin 0. So we've reduced the number of lines we require. The last part is to get this to center in the page, and that's actually incredibly easy. What we've got to tell the browser to do is balance the margins, and the easiest way of doing this, people will show you all kind of complex ways about knowing the width of the object and everything else. All you've got to do is set the margin of the object to 0, to auto. If I save that and press F5, instantly my page is centered. So all of that is all we need to do is to get the system working, and that means that our div is now centered on the page. Okay, and it works in both browsers. That means it will work in all browsers. And in case someone's sitting there saying it doesn't mean it works in Google Chrome, as you probably noticed, I actually have Google Chrome on here. So the three main market leaders on here, and it works in Google Chrome. Okay, I hope that's been helpful.